Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about the 2023 Timothee Chalamet American blockbuster Wonka, which is a prequel to the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory film, and it is absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good. And what I want to talk about today is where it connects to Dungeons and Dragons and where it is fundamentally made of Dungeons and Dragons. All right, so let's dig in. So first of all, increasingly, this is a 5 out of 5 star movie, absolutely fantastic, and it is really just a delightful film. If you are making an American blockbuster today, and it is good, and people are going to enjoy it, and it's going to be worth the $100 million spent to make it, it will almost certainly be made of Dungeons and Dragons, which is exactly the case for Wonka. So how is Dungeons and Dragons a component of Willy Wonka? How is Dungeons and Dragons fundamentally baked into Timothee Chalamet's Willy Wonka film? Well, I'll tell you. Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant plays a villain in this movie. He plays an Oompa Loompa who Willy Wonka, Timothee Chalamet's Willy Wonka, he owes this Oompa Loompa a debt, right? And so Hugh Grant is playing a outcast, exiled Oompa Loompa, and he brings a lot of shenanigans and villainy to the role. Where did Hugh Grant learn to be a good villain? Well, he learned in Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, when he learned how to be a villain to play Forge Fitzwilliams, and all of the charm and all of the villainous energy that is being brought to the role of the Oompa Loompa in the Willy Wonka movie comes from Dungeons and Dragons actor Hugh Grant. So this film is made of Dungeons and Dragons, which I think is very exciting. So, where else does it cross over into Dungeons and Dragons territory? Well, it specifically crosses over into Dungeons and Dragons territory with the word urchin. So Willy Wonka in this film has by the way, spoilers for the Willy Wonka film. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. Willy has a good friend in this film. His best friend in this movie is Noodle. And Noodle is an urchin, a street child, right? A child who was born on the streets, right? And has had to overcome the obstacles of harsh living, right? So a street urchin, right? So in this movie, Noodle is identified as an urchin, right? And in Dungeons and Dragons in the 2014 core player handbook, urchin is literally one of the Dungeons and Dragons backgrounds, which is perfectly portrayed in the film, right, with this urchin that is in the movie. And then also what links it to Dungeons and Dragons is that this film had exactly the same, is a 2023 American blockbuster, exactly like Dungeons and Dragons created, and exactly like zero OSR tabletop role-playing experiences or zero tabletop role-playing experiences for the indie did, right? So this is, so basically Dungeons and Dragons this year went about the incredibly difficult task of creating an American blockbuster, right? So, and creating an American 2023 American blockbuster was quite literally part of Dungeons and Dragons this year, because the characters from that movie literally became D&D canon, right? So Dungeons and Dragons very directly mixed the business of making an American blockbuster with the business of creating Dungeons and Dragons canon lore. Incredible, right? Edgin and his entire crew, Doric and Simon Almer and Holgor. It was an incredible year. Let's talk about Dungeon Masters. Is this every Dungeon Master content? Absolutely. Every Dungeon Master definitely needs to see Wonka. And the reason why is it is extremely good at world building and very directly addresses how magic comes into world building. Is it needed for top tier Dungeons and Dragons dungeon performers, Dungeons and Dragons players? I would say no. There isn't a lot here for players. I think Timothee Chalamet did a tremendous job with this role. However, I think actually players would be able to get, like, you would be better off watching Doom to see how a person brings to life a character. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.